also, yeah. Yeah. I think I also wrote about like Andy Kaufman and everything.
Oh yeah, you know
Yeah,
Andy
just
Kaufman.
seen, yeah, Man on the Moon and something. Jim Carrey. Yeah.
How do I start? The other thing I did is oh, there it is. So there was nothing in that was that I could say. Just want to see. Yeah, so I mean, it was just this one that kind of was concerning because and I'm wondering if someone had, I mean, Googled that and seen it, and maybe that's what it was. Like,
No, but why would somebody say that I was talking about 9/11 or something? Because I think that even this video,
gunsmithship,
I like guns.
Yeah.
I like guns. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I like guns.
If you just, you have to understand how it looks from someone. They go, USS Cole. No.
I know. I understand that, sir.
But you have to okay, it's like, oh wow, keep guns.
Yeah.
USS Cole, and then oh, books on religious jurisprudence and jihad. Wow.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? If I didn't know you, if I hadn't talked to you, I'd be like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's something I can understand, for sure.
So you think you may have done this when you were younger, or do you have any explanation maybe? Or
how old was it? High five, I think it was before 2000 or something.
It was before Facebook. Come on, because it's got to be here, right? It's Karachi, it was your birthday.
Yeah, but that's not my age again, right?
No.
And, yeah.
And that's the truth.
Because here's the deal. Hey, here's the kid. What's the thing?
Is that a friend of yours?
I know this kid. He was in my university.
It's got to be, because it's your profile.
Yeah, I know that it could have been my profile in High Five. But then again, I did watch that video.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I mean, you get it, right? You
Mm-hmm.
look at it, and you're like, okay, it's cool, understandable. Gunsmithship, okay.
Yeah.
Gee, you know what I mean? I'll combine it, it would scare you, right?
I understand that, yeah.
So did you previously subscribe to those kind of people?
I did, in the beginning I was really into, that stuff. But then when
What changed?
Did you require the time?
when we were in teenagers, you just have these things.
Yeah.
But when you actually reach an age of, let me understand the thing. Here's my finding and you tell me. Here's my finding and then, you tell me if I'm correct or wrong.
Yeah.
Then you're in your teenagers, you're into your teenagers from 13 to 19. You usually are extreme.
So this goes back to June of 2011. Actually, St. Patrick's Day, I was fired from my job. April, I was back in Edmonton, trying to live my life. I was back at the place where I was staying in Edmonton, Millwoods area. Now, when I was working, I bought a Nissan Pathfinder SUV. And I told you what happened when the guy from CSIS came to visit me and all that stuff. Here's what happened afterwards. In June of 2011, my landlord's son asked me to come and visit him in the masjid. Not at the house, but in the masjid. And he seemed worried. And another individual who had this very strong, mujahid kind of a look, was sitting with him. And this person said something to me. He said that, anything you have, why don't you just come and talk to us about it? Why do you have to go online and say things and go tell other people, because it might get you in trouble? And I kind of had the idea what was going on, but I asked him anyway. I said, what happened? He said that CSIS individuals, CSIS agents, visited my landlord's son at his workplace. Now, if you are from a Pakistani, Bengali, let's say Indian, or let's say from a Muslim country's background, if you get visits from an intelligence agency, from a security agency at your workplace about somebody, it kind of raises some red flags, right? Here's what happens. Picture this, if you will. Hi, Mr. Imran. I am Darren from Public Safety Canada. We're here to talk to you about an individual living in your house named by the name of Akhi Ansari. We have been monitoring him for some time. What can you tell us about him? What does he do nowadays? Does he have a job? Well, where does he go usually? He lives in your basement, right? He has just sold his car, his SUV, right? Yeah, well, this is my number. Let me know when he buys another car, and let me know if you notice anything about him. Now, these are open-ended questions. Remember this thing. And I'm going to show you in the video how these agents usually question you. They sit at an angle and they have a file in their hand, usually, to create an impression that they know everything about you. If you watch that series like To Catch a Predator, like what Chris Hansen does to people when he catches them, it's kind of the same technique. They start off with open-ended questions, general questions, but the questions are themselves very leading. They appear to be open-ended, but they are leading.
I need to talk to you.
Well,
What are you doing here today?
well, I'm here because I was slightly concerned.
You tell me first. You're Jeff, right?
Yeah,
And what are you doing here tonight, Jeff?
hanging out.
Hanging out with whom?
Like, okay, I'm from the Public Safety Department of Canada, and I would like to ask you some questions about an individual. So naturally, your mind goes to the point where you think that, okay, apparently this individual has something to do with public safety concerns of Canada. And since I'm living in Canada, I've moved here in Canada, my family is living in Canada, my job is in Canada, and it's a very good paying job. Apparently, I have to cooperate with these people to save my job, to save my family and everybody, save Canada from this individual. So that's what happened. He didn't say it. His father, basically the landlord, he said, well, we have some family visiting, so why don't you just vacate the premises from the next month, possibly from July. So they gave me a month's notice. I was living by myself. My rest of my family was, some people were living in Pakistan. The others were living in Ontario. So that was probably the tipping point. That was probably the end for me. I said, well, losing a job, always being followed. Like, it's kind of like being in the Truman Show. Like, when you start noticing things, you understand that there's always people following you around. Like, if you go to a mosque to pray, like if you're sitting at your house, your internet is being monitored, your whereabouts are being monitored. Like, what did I do to deserve this thing? That's the question, right? Like, I had no ill intentions, but they tried to close you into the small space, confine you into a small space that while you're outside, everybody else thinks that you're free, you're not really free. They create restrictions around you without being told that those are restrictions. Your friends are usually not your friends.
You're part of this, aren't you?
Do something!
Any place of employment you go to, you lose your job, you just don't understand, what did I do to deserve this thing? And then the place of your stay, you're being asked to vacate that. So this is how they make life a living hell for you without, that's the legal loophole that they have under the guise of public safety. As we go forward, I'm going to tell you more about this, that how these countries, they actually have laws created to control you rather than actually give you freedoms. Like, if you are living over there doing odd jobs, slave labor kind of jobs, you're free. you can consider yourself free. As soon as you start getting real jobs and you get into you start developing and yourself and you start going forward in life, you start to notice these little things. Anyway, so naturally I was let go from my house as well, like my place of stay, so I couldn't stay in Edmonton anymore. Well, I said, well, you know what? That's it. I'm going back to Pakistan. I had only spent like 3 years in Canada. And in less than 3 years, like 2008, 2011, in less than 3 years basically, my life was just becoming more and more miserable. The place was just unlivable for me. Stupid me, I had not given up hope. What I decided was that, okay, let me go back to Ontario, where my family is. I have some tools and some books that I had borrowed from my brother. I'm just going to give that back, maybe give them some money. I had saved up like, $3,000 or $4,000. I said, man, maybe if I go back to Pakistan, I'd be able to live off of that until I find another job. So while I was there, I was applying for different jobs. Maybe there was a small job. It was a 3-month contract with Bank of Montreal as a business intelligence consultant. I applied for the job. It wasn't really that good paying job as a contractor. It was good, like $65 an hour. So I said, why not? If I'm going back, at least go back with some money. It was on Friday. I had an interview call over the phone. And this lady interviewed me. I said, well, I wasn't going to get a job, so I didn't really prepare much for it. I think Saturday, early morning, I left Edmonton, stayed overnight in Winnipeg. Monday evening, I was in Toronto. Monday, I was in Toronto. I moved in a small place called Scarborough by Lawrence and Victoria Park. Tuesday morning, I woke up, I think like 10 or 11 in the morning, or let's say in the afternoon. I actually got a job.